Okay, welcome back. So today in this part we cover insertion of subfigures within the same figure, and for that we actually use the subfigure environment. So the idea is to have multiple number of subfigures within the same figure, and then having multiple number of subcaptions. So basically each caption or each subcaption will correspond to the uh, to the respective subfigure, and this is actually done by having a subfigure environment within the same figure environment. But before starting this, I would like to give some responses to the questions I received. So the first question which I received was, where are the files located? So the files, all the files of the project are located on overleaf, and whenever you log into your overleaf.com account, you can actually see all the projects listed here. So these are all the projects, and you can download a specific project if you would like to download it to your local disk. Simply select this file name and click download. It will be downloaded as .zip file, and all the files within this project will be downloaded for you. And if you would like to download the PDF only, then on the right hand side where we see the preview of the PDF, we can download the PDF as well. So I hope that it helps. The second question I received was related to equations. Yes, we will definitely cover equations, and hopefully within the very next part. So coming to the subfigures discussion, so let me insert a new section where I say section on how to insert subfigures. So the idea is to have or to create the figure environment, and then within the figure environment we need to create subfigure environment. So I don't need this line include graphics. I can retain the line caption because I would like to have a single caption for the main figure, and I can have a single label for the main figure. Within this begin figure and end figure, now what I'm going to do is to insert a subfigure environment. So consider it like a box, a big box in which you have 2 or 3 or 4 small boxes. So the outer begin and end statement is like the bigger box, and then inside the bigger box we are now putting small boxes. So the small environment is like begin, subfigure, and end subfigure. And similarly, if you would like to have another subfigure, then you can say begin subfigure, end subfigure. So now we have inserted 2 subfigure environments within the main figure environment. For each subfigure, within each subfigure environment, I can now include the figure itself. So I will say include graphics, and let's say I would like to have the channel logo, which is named as logo2.png, and I can assign a unique caption to this subfigure. Let's say logo channel, and I can assign a unique label to this. Let's say figure under figure A. Now similarly I can have the second subfigure. So after this statement begin subfigure, I can say backslash include graphics, and I can bring in the ComSets logo here, and then I can assign a unique caption to this subfigure. I will say coms logo ComSets, and similarly can have a unique label for this, so I can have a label named as figure B. Again, the label is up to your own preference and your own choice. Whatever label you would like to assign, you can actually have it, but make sure that the label to a particular figure is unique and is not repeated for other figures. For the main figure, I can change the main caption. I can say 2 logos are shown side by side. Now let me compile this file and see what happens. When we compile this file, we see that the figures are inserted, but for the second figure, because we all from our previous lecture we know that the size of this file is quite huge, so we can reduce the size and we can fix it to some particular width. So let's say I will define the width as equal to 2.5 inches, and similarly I can assign width to the first figure, to the first logo. I can say width equal to 2.5 inches. So now both of these have the same width, and it's actually a better way to do so that each figure can have the same width, but it's not like kind of mandatory. You can actually assign different widths to each and every sub figure. Now let me compile it again. Now we can see that both the figures have been inserted, and these figures are different, like these are new figures inserted. We do have these logos previously, but now we see that we have figure 3, figure 4 and figure 5. But this isn't what we want it to do. We want to have a single figure and then 2 sub figures within the single figure. So the single figure will get a number of is figure number 3, and then there will be part A of the figure number 3 and part B of the figure number 3. What went wrong here? So basically, in order to use the subfigure environment, we need to include a specific package, and actually if we look at this part, this error, we do see that the LaTeX gives us an error message that the environment subfigure is not identified. So in order to use the subfigure environment, we need to import the package, and the package here is basically we use 2 packages, and the packages are use package. The first package I will use is caption, and similarly the second package I need to use is sub-caption. Now I have imported the 2 required packages, and let us see what happens when I compile this file again. So now it compiles the file, but we do not see any figure here, but rather some kind of weird kind of output with multiple PNG, PDF, JPEG and so on. The idea is that for each subfigure we need to specify the width of the figure, and that is what we can do right in the beginning of the subfigure environment, where we say that begin subfigure. Right in front of this statement we need to specify the size of this subfigure, and that is we do by putting braces, and within braces we can say that I want the width of this figure to be equal to 0.4 times text width. So it will assign a specific width or a specific size within the entire to this figure environment, subfigure environment. For the second subfigure environment, again I need to specify the size or the width, so I can say again 0.4 times text width. So I can I can provide some more comments here, but let me compile the PDF first. Now if I see the 2 figures have been inserted, and maybe you can notice that the second logo or the second figure is on the top of the first logo and it is hiding the first logo, but we do have a single caption and we do have A and B sub caption for each sub figure. The problem is that, okay, did I miss something? Okay, so the problem is that when we say begin subfigure and end subfigure, okay, here I did some mistake with the spelling actually. Yeah, so I will say \text width and let me compile it again. Okay, so now it puts the two subfigures side by side, but even now the width for the first so the first figure is kind of merging into the second figure and they are not well separated, and I need some kind of horizontal space between the two figures. That is something we can achieve by putting a horizontal space just after the end subfigure environment, the first subfigure, and that is done by putting hfill after the end subfigure statement. So I will say hfill. It will basically insert horizontal space between the two subfigures, and now if I recompile the file, I can see that the two figures have been placed side by side with a quite optimal spacing between them, and each subfigure has got a unique caption. So it says logo channel, logo comsets, and then there is a main caption for the main figure environment which says figure number 3. Two logos are shown side by side. Now I wanted to have some comments on this number 0.4. The idea is to divide the width of the entire page or the width of the text into multiple subcolumns so that each subfigure goes into a specific allocated column. In this particular case I have only two subfigures, so I need to divide the space or the columns into two subcolumns. So assume the entire width of the column is 1, so I can assign half of the width to the first figure and half of the width to the second figure. So the best way to do is to assign numbers here such that the sum of those numbers is less than 1. So 0.4 and 0.4 is equal to 0.8. Of course we can change this, we can have 0.3 and 0.3, or we can have 0.45 and 0.45. Similarly, if we have three subfigures, then we can choose the value to be 0.3 for the first figure, 0.3 for the second figure, and 0.3 for the third figure, and they do not need to be the same for all the subfigures, but just make sure that their sum is equal to 1 or less than 1. However, if we do not wish to be that all the subfigures appear in the same row, and rather we wish that each subfigure is in a separate row, then we can have value such that the sum of those values is greater than 1, and we do not need the hfill command here. We can simply replace it by a blank or empty line. So if I remove this hfill command and run this again, so now I see that the two figures have been placed into subfigures environment, but now each subfigure is appearing in a separate row. So it's completely your choice, and depending upon how many number of figures you have, whether you would like to have all the figures in the same row, or you would like to split them into multiple number of rows. So this is how we can do we can insert multiple subfigures within the same figure environment and then assign different subcaptions to each subfigure. I hope that you can practice it, and in the next part we hope to cover some introduction to equations, and we can write some equations and practice them. Thank you and keep watching.